the men won't be able to concentrate if the woman at the front. It makes sense, doesn't it? So by putting the woman at the back, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is not giving to the woman an inferior position. No. She can perform her salah with men in front of her, and she can concentrate. But we cannot perform our salah with women in front of her. We won't be able to concentrate. But why the evil? If the women are at the back and the men are at the front, why is it that the last row of the men have the most evil and the first row of the women have the greatest shar? Because that's the hadith I quoted for you. There's only one way to understand that. Only one. And that is that as the row of men keep on going backwards, and the rows of the women keep on coming forward, eventually they will approach each other and be close to each other. And because of the physical proximity of men and women, there are sparks which fly when men and women are close to each other. That's where the danger lies. Oh, I see. Well, that means that there was no barrier between the men and women. Because if you put up a barrier between the men and the women, then there will be no physical proximity. They will not be drawing close to each other. And therefore you can take this hadith and put it in the cold storage. Yeah, take this hadith and put it in the cold storage. Because there's no longer any question of shar. That's common sense. So that means that in the time of the Prophet ﷺ, men and women performed their salah in the masjid, number one. Men prayed at the front and women prayed at the back. Number two, there was no barrier between the men and the women. Number three, and therefore the conclusion is that men and women prayed in the same space, not in two separate spaces, in the same space, with the men at the front and the women at the back. But that's not all. There's more. You may not have ever heard it, because this hadith has been put into the cold storage of the fridge. It's no longer relevant today. What is it? He said, when you go down in sajda, the woman must remain in sajda longer than the men. You never heard this, did you? Never heard it. It's there. Some of you are shaking your heads. When you go down in sajda, in salat in the masjid, the woman must remain in sajda longer than the men. Because a man may not have enough cloth to cover his private parts. I was teaching this subject to the woman, so when I came to this part, I just said, may not have enough cloth to cover himself, but because you're men in front of me, I can give you the hadith as it is. A man may not have enough cloth to cover his private parts. And when he goes down in sajda, if the woman raises her head too quickly, then this sight would be there before her, which is inappropriate. And so he commanded the woman to remain in sajda longer than the men. Do not raise your head at the same time that the men are raising their head. This is the religion of Islam that came from Nabi Muhammad ﷺ. And the religion of Islam comes from him. There is only one way that we can understand this hadith. And that is that when women prayed at the back of men, if a woman raised her head too quickly, that there be no barrier between her and the men. None. And therefore she could see that the man is not fully covered. So she's praying with both her ears and her eyes. If you put a barrier between the men and the woman, or if you put the woman in the basement, or in an annex, or in an upstairs gallery, tell me, why should she remain in sajda longer than men? Give me one good reason why we should take that hadith out of the cold storage where we put it now, having changed the religion. Do you see the storm that is coming 20, 30 years from now? Are you seeing what they're going to be arguing right here in Cape Town? You might be in your grave sleeping, so you wouldn't witness that storm, that evil storm that will sweep away Cape Town. But your son will be there. And what you're doing is digging a grave for your own children tomorrow. When the woman will be quoting these ahadith that I'm now quoting. And the women are going to be saying, you denied us our rights in the house of Allah. And so what could we do? We're going to build our own masjid for women. And a woman will be on the mimbar, and she'll give the khutbah, she'll lead the salah. You can't stop her, because you open the door for Dajjal to exploit this opportunity. I used to conduct the salat at the United Nations headquarters in Manhattan for 10 years, Salatul Jummah. And the Secretary General of the UN gave us the biggest hall in the whole building. The hall could accommodate about 600 people. But the only entrance to the hall was from the front where the Imam stands in Salat. We had the back rows for the women and the front for the men. And there used to be maybe about 2 rows of women. But the place used to be packed every Jummah. And some people can't get inside, they have to perform their salat in the corridor. And there was no barrier between men and women. And when the Imam got up to give the khutbah, the woman could see him. And when the salat was taking place, the woman would be praying with both their ears and their eyes. Sometimes the Imam may recite an ayah of the Quran, which is an ayah of sajda. And he may not mention it before the salat began. But the men, when they see the Imam go down, they know it's an ayah of sajda. So they all go down. But the woman can't see. And they're puzzled, what kind of strange thing going on in the salat? Something different. Because they didn't know it was a sajda of tilawah. So in the United Nations we did not have any partition, but we had a problem. This was the problem. The Prophet said, when the salat is over, you must remain sitting. Let the women